Hello and welcome to the other side of the planet, where I have taken many planes so that I can drive the new BMW X4.
That's right, we had traveled to the very green city of Greenville, South Carolina, in the USA, which is home to Spartanburg, the busiest BMW factory in the world. It was here we'd drive these beautiful country roads, BMW's very own Spartanburg test track, and an oversteery Skidpan to properly test out this SUV.
I really have to resist not shouting, "This is Spartanburg," at the top of my voice. But anyway, there will be 7 engines for you to choose from, 5 at launch, but eventually there'll be 4 diesels and 3 petrols. The one BMW wants us to talk about the most is the M40D. They reckon that one is an absolute cracker. And I suppose given that the price of fuel is constantly increasing back home, maybe the idea of a sporty diesel is becoming more appealing.
This second generation X4 sees BMW double down on its virtually unique SUV Coupe format. The most dramatic changes have been to the rear of the car, with new sleeker taillights and a revised boot lid. Overall, the look is cleaner but bolder at the same time.
So here it is, the new X4, and as you can see, it's basically an X3 where they've sort of chopped off half the boot and turned it into a sportback. But I think sportbacks are great. I find them to be very practical actually, and the boot here is over 500 liters, really substantial boot, and you get an electric tailgate as standard. But what this means is the roofline drops really dramatically from the top of the car. It does affect headroom a little bit for the rear passengers, and in fact the highest point of the X4 is actually about 7 centimeters lower than the highest point of an X3. And as you can see, the A-pillar has a massive slant to it as well. That's completely different from the X3. And using lightweight materials, they've managed to drop about 50 kilograms from the first X4, and that has lowered the center of gravity as well. So it's an X3 chassis. They've tuned the suspension for a bit less body roll. Beautiful blue calipers over there. These are the 20-inch motorsport wheels. It does come with 18-inch as standard. LED headlights are standard, as well as LED tail lights. And we come forward to the front of the car and we find these new massive kidney grills. BMW are really going big with their grills for their new X cars. So that's what it looks like. How does it drive? The idea is that you get an X3 with not as much boot space, but with some added sporty appeal and sporty ability. And that's what I'm out here to test. I think the one thing that BMW do get very, very right is the variable steering. So it's speed sensitive and it weights up really, really nicely when you're pushing on or when you flick it into sport mode. It makes it all feel a bit more involving, a bit more like a sports car. It's all a bit more direct. And then, you know, when you're parking it, it's nice and light, so you don't have to fight the steering wheel.
Out on the road with the world's lowest speed limit, the X4 proved itself to be a very quiet and comfortable cruiser. But there's much more to the X4 than that, and BMW had a plan to prove it. Time to hit the track.
Alrighty, let's go peeps, I'm excited. So this M40D makes use of a 3-liter straight 6 turbo diesel with 2 sequential turbos to produce 240 kilowatts and 690 newton meters of torque, which means that it's good for a 0 to 100 time of 4.9 seconds. So BMW, I mean, they're world renowned for their rear wheel drive powertrains and the feeling that gives you as a driver, but of course they had to embrace the age of the SUV, and they came up with the X5, which debuted the xDrive system, and now we're driving some 15 years later the latest xDrive, and they really have pretty much perfected this technology. And even though it is a permanent all-wheel drive car, Under most driving conditions, 90% of the power and torque is sent to the rear axle. And of course there is quite a lot of body roll. You have to sort of load up the outside suspension before you really turn it in. But I think what BMW have really managed to do here is take an all-wheel drive system and give it a good substantial portion of rear-wheel drive driving characteristics. I am in a diesel SUV with all-wheel drive and I have a huge smile on my face.
The X4 properly surprised me out on the track. This is an SUV which you can drive very hard.
This is a good car. This is a sporty, I mean, BMW aren't talking. This is a sporty car.
And lastly, BMW let us loose on the Skidpan and told us to turn the traction control off.
Alrighty, so can you drift an X4? I must be honest, I'm slightly f***ing myself right now. But anyway, let's see.
Aggressive kick. Now, steer, wait, just roll. Okay, hit the brake. There you go. So, if you first get a feel for it, when it starts sliding.
I went 0 to accelerate there in about 2 seconds.
But with some practice, this may be an all-wheel drive SUV, but it's the strangest all-wheel drive SUV I've ever driven. And it has the sporting interior to match its capability. With red stitching throughout the car, BMW has developed superb bucket seats for the X4. Rear legroom has been increased too. Combined with the new dash and switchgear from the X3, the interior is functional, modern, and looks and feels of a very high quality.
The new BMW X4 will arrive in South Africa in September this year. 3 models will go on sale initially, and the super hot M40D will only arrive in the first quarter of 2019. Pricing starts at 843,000 Rand for the xDrive 20i. The diesel is exactly the same price, and the M40i will go on sale for 1.13 million. So, not exactly a cheap exercise, the X4, but this is a super luxury and sporty product from BMW. Of course, there's plenty more information about the X4 on our site, and for the latest updates, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, maybe give it a like, and definitely subscribe to be the first to see our videos as they drop. Yeah, definitely do that.